Okay, we're just waiting a few more minutes here for the remaining two board members to show up. Thank you. Okay, good evening, everyone. Before we officially start the meeting, there is a procedural matter that has to be dealt with. When the Zoning Board of Appeals only has 4 voting members present, that is considered quorum. And when we are at quorum, that means in order to pass any variance request, all 4 board members have to vote in favor of it. The bylaws go on to state that the applicants, in the case of quorum, have the option to hold their case over to the next regular meeting, which is December 14th. And so what I want to do is I'll bring up one applicant at a time just to understand what you would like to do with your cases. So why don't we hear from Mr. Gray first, related to 1000 West Patterson. If you could just step up to the microphone, please. Is that active? And so if you could just, so you have the option to hold both the variance requests over until the December 14th meeting, or proceed tonight knowing that all 4 board members have to vote in favor to grant a variance. Yes, and if you want, there are 2 separate variances, you can split those up. I'm sorry, can you pull that microphone up a little bit? You're a little tall. There we go. For the sign on the west side of the building, okay. Okay, so we're going to proceed with just the 1 variance for West Patterson. Okay, thank you. Okay, now we'd like to hear from the applicant for 3113 Parchmount. Hi, thank you, Lisa. So would you like to proceed tonight knowing that you need all 4 board members to vote in favor? You would like to proceed tonight? Okay? Okay, thank you.
Good evening, and welcome to the November 9th, 2023 meeting of the City of Kalamazoo Zoning Board of Appeals, a voluntary advisory board appointed by the City Commission. Mr. Eldridge, could you please conduct the roll call?
Wark? Here. Vanden Hamburg?
Here.
Harrington?
Here.
Holler?
Here.
For each public hearing, public comments will be accepted during the times as indicated on tonight's meeting agenda. Community members that wish to provide public comments over the phone can call 888-382-9556 during the public comment period. They will enter a queue and will be prompted to offer their comments in turn. Callers will be commenting to the board live and will no longer be able to leave a recorded message. Are there any announcements or changes to the original agenda?
I do have one announcement, and that is that we have approved the changes to the zoning ordinance and the rezonings, so something that the board members here have been hearing for months as far as how these changes are in the works. Well, they are now approved, so that should alleviate some of the requests that the board has seen over the last 4 to 6 months. And then the second announcement I have, and I don't believe we have anybody in the audience for this case, but 1102 and 1110 Lake Street, it's the Mill Street Market. Those variances for that development or redevelopment have been moved to the December 14th zoning board of appeals meeting date, and a new notice will be sent out to the surrounding property owners. Thank you.
We will move on to the acceptance of last month's minutes. Are there any changes to the minutes? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion to approve.
Oh, I suppose I'll second it.
Okay, all right. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please signify by saying aye. Now that the meeting minutes from last month have been approved, we will move on to our meeting procedure. For each request, the secretary will read the application into the public record. The applicant or representative will then have 10 minutes to provide their comments. Upon approaching the podium, we ask that the applicant or representative speak slowly, stating their name and organization if necessary, and address, so that we can enter that information into the record. Following that, the public is invited to step up to the podium, starting with those who wish to speak in favor of the application. Slowly and clearly state your name and address and present your comments within the 3-minute time limit. Following that, the public is invited to step up to the podium with those that wish to speak in opposition of the application or otherwise to comment and do the same. Next, we will hear any call-in comments that will be aired for the board and audience. After this, we will close the public hearing on the request. Once the public hearing is closed, the board will then conduct what is called a finding of fact, where the board states what they feel are the facts of the request. The board must approve the finding of fact. Therefore, the first vote you hear is not a ruling on the request, but a vote on the finding of fact. Then the board discusses the request in order to determine a ruling. The board reserves the right to ask questions of persons who have already spoken, even though the public comment portion is closed. Once discussion is ended, the board will move on to a roll call vote. A full board consists of 6 members with 4 votes required to grant a non-use variance or a use variance. Will the board secretary now read the first application into the record?
Sure. An application for a variance for provisions of the zoning ordinance have been filed with the Zoning Board of Appeals by the Douglas Community Center. The applicant is requesting a dimensional variance from Chapter 50-9.51-1, formerly Appendix A, Chapter 7, 7.3A, to allow a 28 square foot LED panel on the south wall, where wall signage is limited to 124 to 124 square foot wall sign for each approved special use, and the Douglas Community Center has already utilized this signage, and a dimensional variance from Chapter 50-9.3F, 1A, formerly Appendix A, Chapter 7, 7.2D, to allow for the 28 square foot wall sign to be 100% changeable. 100, I know. Is that written correctly? Okay. 100% changeable copy or LED, where the changeable copy on the wall signs in the residential district are limited to 25% of the sign area.
Thank you.
Please note that this request will not change the zoning classification of the properties. Sorry about that. Thank you.
That's fine, great, thank you.
Yeah.
Will the applicant please step up to the podium, sign in, and provide your name and explain the request in the 10 minutes provided?
Can you lift the,
We can't hear you. Okay, let's try that again.
There we go.
okay.
Is that better?
Yes,
Yep.
all right, thank you.
Okay, I'm Dana. I'm with Burkett Sign Company, and we are the sign company that the Douglas Community Association has hired for their signs. We are here to, I guess, basically now accept the board's preliminary decision for the wall on the south side. We've asked that it be 28 square foot and that it be all 100% changeable copy, which will help to allow for displaying the many different nonprofit organizations that are within that building, okay, on the front of the building, which is, sidebar, completely different than what the other sign on the west wall is intended for, which we'll discuss in December. But we have met with the Barry, or I keep wanting to call it, Barry, you do that to me, with the Douglas Community Association, and they have asked that I stand up here and say, yes, you know, your preliminary findings are acceptable, and if that is how you guys would still like to proceed, we'd appreciate that.
Okay,
Okay,
all right, thank you.
thank you.
Would staff like to make any comments related to this request?
Yes, yes. So I'll keep my comments just to the sign on the south wall. And just as background to the viewing audience, so this is it's residentially zoned property. Douglas Community Center is just that. It is a community center which is an allowed use in a residential zone district. However, special uses in the residential zone district, like the Douglas Community Center, still are limited signage-wise because it is a residential zone. So there is a maximum of 24 square feet for a wall sign, and then there's an allowance for a freestanding sign. And the Douglas Community Center already has channel letters on the building, so they already have the wall sign allowance utilized. And then they have a freestanding sign that lists out the many tenants that are using space in the building. So they've utilized the freestanding signage also. There is not any sign allowance left over for any changeable copy or LED panel like what they've proposed to advertise the programming going on at the center. So, given the size of the facility, which, let's see, yeah, so the facility, it's 5 acres in area, and the building itself is around 28,000 square feet. So it is a rather large facility, and as was mentioned, they have other tenants within the building doing programming as well. Because the wall sign size is similar to what's allowed in a residential zone district, and it's oriented directly to Patterson, so it's not pointing towards any adjacent properties. Staff is supportive of allowing the additional signage. As we can see, the the need for being able to, to promote the programs going on at the Douglas Community Center. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we ask questions right now? Can we ask questions right now? I just have a question about the freestanding. What did you say about the freestanding aspect of this?
So in the residential zone district, there's an allowance for a freestanding sign as well, and that square footage allowance has already been utilized with their multi-tenant
Sure.
sign out front.
Okay, just want to get that in there. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. I will now open the public hearing by inviting those wishing to speak in favor of the request. If you could please step up to the podium, sign in, and provide us with your name and address. You will have 3 minutes to speak in favor of the request.
Should we wait for him to come back? No, you're good. You said go ahead? Okay, thank
Yeah,
you. Good
please
evening,
go.
everybody. Greetings to the board, Assistant City Attorney Bear. My name is Stacy Ledbetter, and I'm the Interim Executive Director of the Douglas Community Association. If you would note that in your paperwork, we're association versus center. It had changed over the years. I want to just definitely give my thank you for the approval and just add a little context to what you have. Just wanted to be known that the Douglas, as we're affectionately known, was established in 1919 to create cultural, social, and recreational space and opportunities for World War I soldiers who experienced segregation from their counterparts. Our organization was named in honor of Frederick Douglass, so not to be confused with the street around the corner. We have 2 S's. And Douglass was an advocate for equal rights, voting rights, and women's rights, which is very near and dear to us. We evolved over the century, and today our mission is to create a culture of equity and inclusion that transforms the lives of Northside residents and beyond through effective, efficient, and quality opportunities. We have a plethora of amazing partnerships with local organizations, entrepreneurs, businesses, and volunteers, including the City of Kalamazoo. We host precincts 7 and 9 for elections, and we also house the following organizations inside our building: the Alma Powell branch of the Kalamazoo Public Library, Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Kalamazoo, Community Action, Great Lakes Center for Autism and Research, Griffin Place, Helen L. Fox Gospel Music Center, Kalamazoo Loaves and Fishes, Michigan Works Southwest, the Michigan Kalamazoo branch of the NAACP, and Smile Savers Mobile Dentistry. And so in terms of the request that you approved and even what we will deal with in December, we are simply trying to enhance our publicity and communication regarding events, services, and opportunities. We want it clear that we are made up of, here for, and all about the community. So whatever messages they need to relay and convey, including you all in terms of the city, that's what we want to be all about in terms of following any rules or whatever. We just want to do better and be better as we enhance and look forward and strategically plan for the next century. So in summation, we plan on not only displaying our own, but information that can assist our partners as well. And just know that our neighbor to the west, Pam Rowland, Kalamazoo Junior Girls, gave me permission to speak her name into the record, fully supports what we're trying to do here. Also, neighbor and
Okay. Thank you, Stacy. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor? I will now invite those wishing to speak in opposition of the request. Are there any call-in comments?
There are no call-in comments tonight.
Okay, thank you. I will now close the public portion of this meeting. Okay. As a board, are there any further discussion or additional questions? Okay, all right. Is there a motion for the finding of fact?
Yes. I move that the finding of fact for 1000 West Patterson Street shall include all information included in the notice of public hearing, date October 25, 2023. In the agenda packet staff provided for this request, 31 notices of public hearing were sent and 0 responses were received. A public hearing was held before the board. Public comments were accepted, as were additional documents and voice messages, as follows. There were none. In addition to what I've just mentioned, the finding of fact will also include the following. The facts presented that the literal interpretation and enforcement of the terms and provisions of this ordinance would deprive the applicant of all practical purposes from using the property for the permitted use. Well, this is a variance, a use or a dimensional variance, which is a right commonly enjoyed by the other lands in the same zone district are Dana Burkett, the facts presented, whether there are necessary hardships based on the special circumstances or conditions that are peculiar to the land or structure for which the dimensional variance is sought, that is not applicable to other land or structures in the same zone district are that, I'm just going to read what occurred. Dana Burkett from the Burkett Sign Company came to present that in support of, putting the sign up, a 28 square foot LED panel on the south wall, where wall signage is limited to 124 square foot wall sign for each of the for each approved special use with the Douglas Community Association. There's already a freestanding sign in the front that's being utilized, but the Douglas Community Association would like to expand their signage on the south wall because of the many entities that are in the facility. They have support from Kalamazoo Junior Girls and the Northside NACD, Northside Associate, but just Maddie Jordan Woods. Excuse me. Thank you. And they have a 28,000 square foot facility. Again, there are many tenants in the space. This would, staff is actually in support of this. Because it is an LED sign that's in a residentially zoned, it's a residentially zoned property. They had to get a special use variance for this, and only one sign is limited, but staff is in support of this. Again, the interim executive director, Stacy Ledbetter, came up to discuss all of the different community partnerships that the Douglas Community Association, and gave us a really intensive and special history of what this cultural pillar means in our community. And yeah, we need this sign. Thank you.
Thank you, Remy.
Just one item of correction, it is considered a special use in that zone, but when the Douglas Community Center moved there in 1982, I don't think we were doing special use permits, so I don't think they had to get any special approval back then.
Oh, do it. Should I say that?
Well, you said that they needed to get a special use variance.
Oh, for those signs?
For the use, for being a community center there, I thought was what I heard. But
Did I
anyways,
say
we'll
that?
review it and make,
Okay.
okay.
Well, whatever I said in error, forgive me.
Well,
Yeah,
I thought that's what I heard.
Okay.
Yeah, you did good. All right, okay. All right. Is there a motion to approve the finding of fact?
I support or I approve the finding of fact.
Is there a second?
Well, he would be the second. She moved, he seconded.
Okay.
Am I right there, Pete? Thank you.
All of those in favor of accepting the finding of fact, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed, please signify by saying aye. Motion carried. Now that the finding of fact has been approved, we will have a discussion regarding the applicant's request.
Anybody want to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. I'm going to be voting in support of this application. I really like the fact that they also have 9 other tenants in the building, that the community association houses the voter registration. They have a library there. They provide a lot of service to the community, and not just for the folks that live on the north side, but for everyone. And I really think with, the sign is already full for the tenants, that they really need to have the sign. And I guess, extra comfortable with the fact that it faces Patterson Street. So the sign is not pointing to any residential houses or anything like that. So I will be voting in support.
Oh, I'll go. Am I on? I'm on. I always approach these with the idea that I'm going to vote no, and that's probably a healthy attitude to take. But looking at it, I think a lot of the things we have to deal with, we're talking about, are there special circumstances of the land or the building or something that are going to prevent a specific use? And that's, the second thing on the agenda is like, that's kind of an issue there, I suppose. But this is not one of those cases where they can't use the building. It is a case where the specific use of the building would be frustrated in a sense by the signage limits. This isn't just an office building where we need to have, so-and-so attorney at law or whatever listed. Mm-hmm. It's more of a community organization. So I think when we look at what is it, 4, 5, and 6 of our, not of the agenda, but of the findings in the back by staff, which talk about, having the use be in the spirit of the ordinance, it carries out a public interest, that sort of thing. And I think that this particular organization and the way it is kind of needs a different kind of a sign than just a regular office building, which is why I would vote specifically yes for this one.
Okay.
And I'm done.
All right, thank you.
Here, you want to go?
Yes. I'm in support of the variance as well. It's 28,000 square feet, multiple tenants. You definitely need the sign, the extra signage.
Okay, thank you, Gary. Okay.
I'm also obviously in support of this sign. I think it's amazing, and I'm proud of the work that you do in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Remy. It is now time to bring the applicant's variance request to the board for a vote. Is there a motion on the application to approve?
Am I jumping the gun on this? Do we have the motion already out there? No, we
I
don't.
was putting a motion out there
You're putting it
to
out?
vote.
Okay.
Maybe
Sorry, I was thinking we put the motion out there before we started the discussion, but I guess we didn't in this case.
Okay, all right. Appreciate your patience.
We're going to vote on granting the variance or not, is what it comes down to.
Correct. Yes. Okay. It is now time to bring the applicant's variance request to the board for a vote. Is there a motion to vote on the ZBA 231118, 1000 West Patterson Street? The Douglas Community Association is requesting the variance for a 28-square-foot LED sign on the south side of the building. This is a dimensional variance from Chapter 50, 50-9.5-1, to allow a 28 square foot LED panel on the south wall where wall signage is limited to one 24 square foot sign for each approval, special use, and the Douglas Community Center has already utilized this signage. And 2, a dimensional variance from Chapter 50, 9.3 F, to allow for the 28 square foot wall sign to be 100% changeable copy or LED, where the changeable copy on wall signs in the residential districts are limited to 25% of the sign area.
I move to approve the ZBA number 23-11-18 variance.
Okay.
Do you want a second on that? I second that.
Okay. All right, Mr. Eldridge, may I have a roll call vote?
Wark,
Yes.
Harrington,
Yes.
Polar,
Yes.
Vanden Hamburg.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Yes. Yeah.
And potentially see you next month.
All right.
Really?
Like it's better. Just everybody write a letter, write one letter.
Wow. Wow. Okay. What do I do to my write-up here? Holy smokes.
Moving on to our next agenda item, will the board secretary now read the next application into the record?
Hello. Alrighty. An application for variance for provisions of the zoning, of the zoning ordinance have been filed with the Zoning Board of Appeals, thank you, by Lisa Woodruff, representing Butterfly Oasis Adult Foster Care, and is requesting a use variance from Chapter 4, Section 4.1, to increase this adult foster care group home from 6 residents to 11 residents, where a medium group home, 7 to 12 residents, is not permitted in this residential district. Please note that this request will not change the zoning classification of the properties. Thank you.
Thank you, Remy. Okay, Lisa, you have 10 minutes.
Lisa Woodruff. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Whoa, that's loud. My request is to increase an already established home that has 6 residents in it currently to be able to house 11 residents in our home. I think one of the questions was, how is that going to affect the neighborhood? We have gone through and asked all the residents if they had any objections to that, and all have said no. Matter of fact, one resident didn't even know we had an AFC there already established, and it's been established for, I think, 17 years, I believe, prior to my purchase. That is my request.
Okay. All right.
Questions?
Okay.
I've written down. Do you need anything else from me right now? I'm not a public speaker.
Okay. Would staff like to make any comments related to this request?
Yes, I do have some comments to make, but there's still time if, did you want to speak also
I
on?
wanted to speak on favor of the variance.
Okay, so okay.
Do that now, or you gotta do something first?
Why don't you wait till we get to the public comment part? That'd be perfect, thank you. Okay, so staff just has a few comments to make. So this particular property, as mentioned in the staff report, is in the RS5, the Residential Single Dwelling District, which is the lowest intensity residential zone district. And the district does allow by right an adult foster care family home or an adult foster care small group home with a total of 6, up to 6 residents, I should say. In this particular case, the applicant is looking to increase that number, which brings it into a different category of medium adult foster care home, which is 7 to 12 is that category. That category is not a permitted use in this zone. As far as particular hardships, staff did not find there was any specific hardships related to the land or the structure related to this request, and no special circumstances that were evident when doing the review. What was observed is that, this particular property is also on a local street. It's not on a higher traffic neighborhood corridor street. So increasing the number, going from 6 to 11 is a substantial change. That means more visitors to visit the individuals that are residing there. That means additional transports for doctor appointments and so forth for those residents. It may mean, will result in additional ambulances to the property when there are incidences with the elderly folks that live there. So there is definitely going to be a traffic impact, and there will be an impact on parking. I did go back through to see if there was any other similar variances like this in the past, and the only one I could even find was for a property on the north side of Kalamazoo that had an existing, adult foster care medium group home, and they were going from 8 to 9 residents, so they're in the same zone district, RS5, so it was legal non-conforming, and they wanted to increase by 1 resident to 9, and the board did approve that. And that was in 2017. But I don't have any other examples where we've had an adult foster care home in an RS5 zone district, go up this high to 11 residents. So staff is not supportive of this proposed variance tonight, and that's all the comments I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I will now open the public hearing by inviting those wishing to speak in favor of the request. If you could please step up to the podium, and you will have 3 minutes to speak in favor.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
My name is Bob Mihelich. I currently reside on Old Farm Road in the township of Kalamazoo. I am the previous owner of the facility which Lisa Woodruff has purchased from my wife and I recently. I'm in favor of increasing this request for people from 6 to up to 11 for the following reasons. Number one, we need this service in our community. Do you realize how many people are going to nursing homes where we can give specialized care in a smaller setting to give people their last days or months or years in our facility to live on with their last days in dignity? We have kept up with that facility. That facility's been in operation for 17 years. And we have done everything right by the law with the state regulations of LARA, the Licensing Agency and Regulatory Affairs. And I'll speak to the matter of the traffic on there real quickly. Based on your Kalamazoo Area Traffic Safety report in 2019, which is the last report, 505 vehicles daily proceed down Parchmount Avenue, which I don't believe is a whole lot. None of our current residents have vehicles. They don't drive. We have doctors that come into the facility, so there's no transportation involved of going in and out of our facility. All our parking and everything else, we've got sectioned off so that there is no cluster on anything that would prohibit people from entering our home. We have all our visiting hours are from 11 to 7 daily, by appointment only. So we keep the traffic to a minimum. We know how busy Parchmount Avenue is, and we request any visitors or any family members that come to our facility not to park on that road. So, we have been very close to following the rules and regulations set forth by the state of Michigan in regards to a group home. And I would think it would be a disservice not to give Lisa the opportunity to bring 5 more people into our lovely home. We have the square footage. We've already had our basement remodeled and everything else, which was approved back in 2006 because we used to have residents there under our license. And I don't think that expanding to have more be detrimental. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor?
I own Sue's Loving Care. I happen to be the home that was approved in 17 to go from 8 to 9. We care for the same type of residents that Lisa will, and ours too. They don't drive. A lot of them don't have families to where it doesn't really cause an issue with parking or anything. Also, by having the physician come in, it stops all the in and out because everything is done in-house. Therapy, everything is done in-house. Aging population, they're living longer, but are ending up in nursing homes because families just are not able to care for them for what the needs are, for what we care for. We get a lot of calls, and we only house 9, and we have nowhere to refer them other than nursing homes. There's just not people that want to do the type of care that Lisa and I do. It's not for everybody. It's not quick and easy, but it's a passion. So I'm in favor of it just because I know what it means for us and for the families that we care for, and it has not caused an issue. I know we only have 9, but ours don't drive either, so it's just more having them be able to live out their lives in a family home. Okay?
All right, thank you.
Can you repeat your name again?
Susan Dornan.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anybody else who'd like to speak in favor? Okay. Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition of the request? Are there any call-in comments?
Yes, we have a call-in comment. You are calling into the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. You have 3 minutes. Please provide your comments.
My name's Richard Stewart. I'm a resident of the city, and I'd like to support this request to allow the owner of the property to increase the number of occupants in their care facility. I think it's despicable that the city staff is providing such negative comments. The city needs to be more welcoming to care for persons with disabilities and senior citizens, and I think this is an example of the toxic environment that the city is waging against small business owners, property owners, and in particular, care for persons with disabilities and persons with aging issues. I think this applicant should be applauded for their ability to take on additional clients, and they have obviously a proven history of doing a great job. So I'm calling in support, and I hope you will take this into consideration for future applicants. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart.
And we don't have any more call-in comments.
Okay. I will now close the public portion of this meeting. All right, Mr. Eldridge, I have some questions for the applicant. So would this be the point where I can call them up and ask?
Yes, yep.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Lisa. When I went through the notes and just going through the packet and the maps, the layout and everything, I just want to make sure that my understanding is clear. I'm confused on a couple things. So in looking at this on your, how many square footage, if you include the garage that's been converted over, what is the square footage of your above ground?
Bob will know that
Oh,
more so than I, so I'm going to ask him to
Yeah,
come up
you can come
as
on.
well.
It's a total of 1,800 square above ground, 1,200 feet in the basement, which is all designed with egress windows. We've been approved by the State of Michigan Fire Department to have the egress windows where we would have people living downstairs in a basement. We have a stair elevator to get the people up from the basement in case there is a fire, or they can use the egress windows. So 3,000 square feet is the total with the garage that's been converted.
Okay. All right.
Thanks, Bob.
All right, now when I'm looking at it, again, I see there's, with the garage that's been converted over, we have 6 bedrooms.
Correct.
6 private
Upstairs.
bedrooms. And then downstairs, you've got 2 bedrooms, so that's gonna be 4.
Correct.
So then where's the 11?
The fifth one? Currently, we have one couple that is actually owns kind of 2 of the rooms. They use one, it's a married couple, and one, they use a living room, and the other smaller room they use as a bedroom. And one of that dyad is on hospice, and part of the agreement was once one passes away, they would use the bedroom, and the larger room at that point could be converted to a split room.
Okay. All right.
So I'm still, so you have at least 2 rooms that are utilized for married couples then?
Yes.
2 rooms for married.
Correct.
Thank you.
When I was going through the appeals application, let's see, I have to read the fine print here. You know, you'd mentioned that family visits are between the hours of 11 and 7 p.m. And it says may occur by monthly.
Yes.
And so that is a serious concern to me, because when I read that, like, okay, you're going to have potentially, well, not potentially, you're looking to be licensed to have 11 people in this facility. Currently, 4 are, in an active death
Correct.
situation. They're on hospice. And if they can only come bi-monthly.
No, that's not true.
Because it says
What-
may occur bi-monthly, and
They
so
may
when I
come-
looked that up, it was like bi-monthly is twice a month or every other month. So what do you
Absolutely
mean
not.
by that?
What I meant is the average that families do come, because oftentimes they're working families and they can't come all the time. So the average that they're actually coming at this point is bi-monthly. So every other week, typically families will come to see them. They can come anytime between 11 and 7, and I welcome that, especially because our residents, 4 of them are on hospice.
Right.
So it was more geared towards, this is what we're seeing on average right now.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Because I'm like, family visits are at hours between 11 and 11 a.m. and 7 p.m. and may occur bi-monthly. So, all right, thank
Yep.
you for clarifying that.
You're welcome. Any other questions for me?
I have a couple questions. How long ago did you purchase the business?
I purchased the business last Friday.
Last Friday.
I have been in the process of purchasing it for greater than 3 months. I am a nurse practitioner, and I've been in the home and have been working with Gloria, for the previous owner, for 12 years in a different capacity, but that's been my passion, is to become an AFC owner. And kind of, I've always worked with the elderly. So I work with Senior Care Partners PACE, which I will continue to do, and I have a house manager. I'm not doing any of the medical for our residents, because it's a conflict of interest, in my opinion, and I have very good contract providers that come in, and when they come in, they see all the residents at once, so the traffic flow will not be any different than it is now with regards to our contracts that come in.
Okay. Bob, I have a question for you. So there are 6 residents there now. And did you build it out for the additional residents, the basement?
Could I answer that question? No, we remodeled that basement 17 years ago to accommodate our original license of a family group home. We had people downstairs. Then in 2011, we started transforming our 2.5-car garage into 3 bedrooms and a bathroom, so we could have all residents, or what we wanted to have, all on the main floor. I'd like to also reply to the statement made about the ambulances and stuff. All of our current residents do not resuscitate. So and the 4 that are in hospice, the way that works is if a death happens or occurs, we call hospice first, because they have the legal precedence to pronounce the resident deceased. So there is no facility, or there would be no call to the fire department or 911 to help resuscitate this person, because they've already signed a do not resuscitate order.
You said all of your residents have a do not resuscitate?
All of our residents currently in residence right now are DNRs, all 6 of them.
But that
4
doesn't,
of those are in hospice.
that doesn't mean the additional residents are going to be do not resuscitate.
That is true. It
That's
depends,
true.
each individual resident has a certain circumstance.
Okay,
They could request that they do not resuscitate, or they could request that they be resuscitated.
okay,
But
all
all currently, right now, we have all 6 that do not resuscitate.
right. That's it for me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, staff just wants to make one comment in response to what's being said and what was mentioned by the resident, Mr. Stewart, during the public comment period. You know, our next phase of ordinance reviews is going to include the residential zone districts. So if the city of Kalamazoo is truly out of step with where we should be on adult foster care facilities, you know, that would be the time to properly do the research and figure out if we need to make corrections to the ordinance. But
Is it time to have comment yet on what you're saying in terms of your staff position on this?
yeah, I mean, if you have questions for staff, you can ask.
Right now?
Yes.
Okay. When you say with this adult foster care facilities aspect of the ordinance being reviewed, can you expound upon that just a little bit more? Before we get into the discussion, I know we're going to have a discussion, but I want to understand what you mean by that. Like, what aspects of it will you feel as though you're going to be
Well,
addressing?
what I was responding to was the comment that the city may be out of step. I don't believe we are out of step. This is very consistent language, you know, to allow for, you know, non-single family or family uses in the residential zone district, but make sure they are low intensity. This is, you know, just like with home occupations. We allow home occupations, but there are limits. We allow small group home operations like this that are licensed by the state, you know, but that is the limit. Just a small group home, not a medium, not a large size. So it is, you know, to lessen the intensity and to keep the environment residential in nature.
Is there, so this, sorry, is there anywhere in the city then that would allow this size of a home?
Yes, yes. When the multi-dwelling zone districts, which are a higher intensity residential zone district, you could have a medium adult foster care home.
Okay. It's just this particular neighborhood or particular district just
Correct.
says no.
Well, it's
Or
single
the
family.
zoning says no.
It's single family.
Okay. And that's where the staff recommendation is coming from, is you kind of have to put what my personal feelings aside are and look at the zoning and what it's used for and go, well, this is what we've done in the past and this is what we should recommend based on that.
Correct.
Not that I feel it's one way or the other.
Yes, and an example I was drawing from, and like I said, I looked back to see if we had had other cases, and, you know, Sue, who is here tonight, you know, her adult foster care group home that is you know, that qualifies as a medium-sized group home that now is approved for 9 residents. You know, they have the home that the adult foster care operates within, but then they also own the adjacent residence as their private residence. So they have, you know, a substantial amount of property. They have a large driveway where the adult foster care is located. They have a large driveway for their single-family home as well. So they, you know, it is a different circumstance in that regard. And again, it's not 11. So
You also mentioned something surrounding public services like ambulances also. What can you expound upon that as well?
well, that was related to, you know, when you have falls or other situations that need medical attention. Not just, you know, issues where, you know, it may be even a more serious medical condition. But you might have lesser medical issues that need immediate attention like that, so.
And but I mean, what's the staff position about it though? Like, why was that brought up about the fact that ambulances were going to be called for the elders? What did that have, I mean?
That was mentioned because that is, well, it's commonplace for, senior care facilities, even for independent senior living facilities, there are more ambulance calls.
I know, but I'm saying, what's the staff position about it? Like, why was that brought up as though that
traffic. Additional,
okay.
yeah, that was brought up in context with,
Aw,
because
man.
there would be more
Okay.
visitors to the site, because there's more residents, there most likely would be other additional traffic too. So that's what it was brought up in context with.
We gonna have to wait then. People gonna have to wait on the street because the elders need the ambulance. We gonna have to wait, just like we gotta wait on these 5-lane traffic things. We gonna have to wait like the trains. We gonna have to wait because the elders need an ambulance. I think we are out of touch on that. I'm sorry.
So this is an RS5, right?
Correct.
How far are they like in proximity to one that would allow, without question, a medium-sized group home? Do you know? I mean, that's maybe an off-the-wall question to ask now, but I'm just curious, like, are they well outside of where it would normally be allowed without question, or are they kind of adjacent to that sort of neighborhood, or if you know?
I honestly don't have a larger zoning map than what's in the packet.
Yeah. I mean, it's over there by Spring Valley Park, right?
Yeah, I
Sort
mean,
of
that's a pretty large pocket of residential, single-dwelling zoned lots, and then it is near the park. I think there is some multi-dwelling zoned land as you go south on Mount Olivet and get closer to Riverview Drive. But this area up here is all in that RS5.
Okay.
Okay.
I've got a question about the single-family zoning clarification, or then I need, Mr. Eldridge. Before this group home came in, did they have to get a zoning amendment or anything, or in a single family zoned neighborhood, you can have a small group home in without?
It's permitted by right.
Permitted by right.
As long as
Okay.
it's 6 or fewer residents.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Count as one of the, or is it 6 in addition to the owner? Like, you live on site, right?
They did live on, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, is it like, if she moved out, could that like bring the number up? Or where does that play
Well,
into
no,
it?
it'd be residents under care.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So
I-
6
Okay.
residents under care. You could
Yeah, I
have
see
like
what you're
12
saying, though.
family members, like her and her 19 children could live there.
According to the state law, we could have, my wife and I, we have 2 kids and 6 residents.
That's okay.
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 Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I have a question. Are there detailed requirements for common areas for 11 residents? It seems like a lot of residents for a 3,000 square foot building. And then on top of that, you have visitors coming in. It doesn't really seem like they're going to be able to spend all their time in the bedrooms.
I can't answer that. If you want to have the applicant answer to that, because that
Sure.
would be from the state regulations.
Right.
Regulations
Why don't you step up to the mic so the
Yeah.
viewing audience can hear it too?
I'm
Thank you.
sorry, state regulations, we abide by the state regulations, LARA, LA, Licensing Authority and Regulation Authority, sorry. Our home has already been reviewed and been approved by the licensing of Michigan to accommodate that. The law requires that they have X number of square feet, and everything in our facility meets those standards, including common areas. So sleeping area and common area are all part of that, on
That's-
both levels.
That's
We
for
both
the
meet that.
existing tenants, right?
That's that's with the whole house.
That's with the existing residents?
The existing residence
Okay.
is all on the main floor.
Right.
That meets the criteria, as does the basement, meets the same criteria,
But that
with
formula,
having 4 extra individuals down there. Right now, my wife and I, when we started the business, we lived in the basement. Okay? But as big as the basement is, it's just 1,200 square feet. Putting 4 residents down there meets the requirements required by the state for sleeping and common areas.
There will be a living room and it's a living room and a dining room.
There's a living room and dining room and 2 bedrooms.
And it's 65 square feet is what's required. They will not have only 65 square feet.
I didn't hear you, 65 square feet,
Yeah,
what?
the legal requirement is 65 square feet per person, which I think is ridiculous. And so having the 4 people down there, they will still have an abundance of room as opposed to those 65 square feet.
Yeah, can you tell me a little bit more about, I thought I'd heard a comment earlier about that visitors need to come by appointment.
So if somebody's on hospice and they're dying, I'm going to invite them in, to be totally honest with you. I'm not going to say, oh, nope, it's 7 o'clock, you gotta go. I've worked for hospice for 12 years. When I was talking about, on average, when I'm sorry, I work at PACE too, and they're called participants. So with the residents, a lot of them are out of state, a lot of them are up north, they work, and they cannot come, otherwise they'd probably be taking care of their loved one. But because they can't come very frequently, I know for a fact, one gentleman, he calls his mother every night at 8 o'clock. That's his touch base. He doesn't come down. Another resident's brother lives up north, so he may come down once a month, if that. I mean, everybody has lives and they can't always run out to see, but we can take pictures and show them how their loved one is doing.
Okay, thank you.
I wanted to return to Gary's question just to clarify. I think what you were asking is, it meets approval, I think what you were asking was, it meets approval now for 6, but if you double it, or basically double it to 11, is that going to take it out of compliance?
The formula
And
changes.
your answer was no, you would still be in compliance for the 11 people then? Okay,
Absolutely.
thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, is there any further discussion or additional questions before we move on for the establishing the finding of fact? Okay. Is there a motion for the finding of fact?
Oh, sure. A little more detailed than usual. All right. 311 Parchmount Avenue include all that information included in the notice of public hearing dated October 25th, as well as the agenda packet provided. We had, 33 notices of public hearing were sent. It says 0 responses were received, but I know that's not true because we did get a letter.
Yeah.
But I'll get to that. Obviously, we've had the public, which that may have been written in there before we got the letter, so no problems. All right, so we've had the public hearing. What other additional documents did we get? We got a letter that I'm not being snarky when I say this. I don't consider it necessarily a letter of support. It's a letter of non-opposition, just to be technically correct. But, you know, sometimes that's the best you can get out of people is they don't oppose it. They may not come out and actually say they support it because that takes a little more effort. But nevertheless, we got that with 4 residents that one of them is clearly a neighbor, probably the next door neighbor. One is probably a couple of houses down and then a couple around the corner. Based on the address and the cross.
That's correct.
Yeah. just based on the cross streets and the number. Yeah, excellent. So the people that are probably most likely to be impacted by this, at least 4 of them said, fine by me. Let's see. What else did we hear from? We didn't get a voice message, but we heard from on the phone Richard Stewart, who essentially believes we should allow the variance because we need more of these kinds of care facilities. We've heard from the applicant. We heard from Bob, whose last name I'm not going to kill, but it was Mihelich. Don't take it wrong if I got it wrong. My apologies. And then Susan Dornan as well. I think in general, everybody is in favor of this. As to maybe staff's concerns, which are, they've got to say these kinds of things, especially as to the traffic, are probably overblown in their opinion. Let me look at my notes here as well. Make sure I didn't miss anything. Obviously, everybody agrees we need more of this service in the community. I think I got all of that. See if I need, and that would go towards some of the things in the staff report, and I want to make sure that the traffic one gets mentioned specifically, because I believe that was number 5, that granting the variance will not adversely affect adjacent land in a material way. That's where the traffic was mentioned,
Yeah.
and that, I think, is what everybody took issue with, other than they might as well have just come up and said, the zoning as it is not fair and isn't realistic, because I think that was generally the tenor of it. But that's me going a bit off topic there. I don't think I have anything else to add to that as far as what the findings of fact should include. Thank you.
Excellent, well done. And I support the finding of fact.
All of those in favor of accepting the finding of fact, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed, please signify by saying aye. Motion carried.
Well, that's the finding of fact part.
Yes.
So happy
Yep.
there.
Now that the finding of fact has been approved, we will have a discussion regarding the applicant's request.
I would like to start off, if that's okay. I would like to first, I'm not coming at city staff, I think that the tone, I'm grateful that we have Pete here to say, I'll start off with something positive. I'm trying something new out.
Criticism sandwich. Say a positive, say a negative, then a positive.
That's how you're doing it? Okay, thank you. But I think that Pete opened up the conversation to be able to, have humility, institutional humility, to recognize that within the policies, how antagonistic it could potentially be based on Richard Stewart's comments to facilities like this. And he's opening up the conversation to say, hey, maybe we are out of touch on this topic. But I do want to say that it is antagonistic to our elder population. And when I talk about regenerative development, we take into consideration intergenerational housing, communal living, things like this, which have become like necessity for our aging population, specifically because we have, it's the social landscape right now. And to have, to selectively enforce ideologies like the congestion, you're talking about like congestion and like the intensity of, like, look at what we've tried to attempt with this multimodal situation with these 5 lanes that we have on some of the most major streets in our community that block, and then when people have the willingness and the calling in their homes and to create businesses to alleviate the pain and pressure from elders that they're bringing into homes. There's still places like this that exist, and our policies are antagonistic to that. I have a problem with that. I have a big, big, big problem with that. I will be absolutely in support of this. My own mother passed away at 65, and she had a chronic condition, and I am taking that in consideration because I'm a human being. I can't even believe, like, I live with my mom, I cared for my mother, and we called ambulances, and we did that because my mom's life mattered, and these elders matter, and we can call the ambulance for them 27 times if we need to, and if God gives us our life, we're gonna get old one day, and you're gonna want somebody to call an ambulance for you. I don't understand why the policies are antagonistic to our aging population. It's disgusting.
I'd like to speak next to that. I'll be voting no. I think that requesting 11 residents from 6 to 11, that's substantial, and it bumps you up into the 7 to 12. And I think that there are plenty of places throughout our community that have the proper zoning. You could always move the business there. But most important, I think that if we voted yes, we'd be setting a precedent for that, and that would allow the neighbor next door to go ahead and request that she get her business increased to 11 or 12 residents. So I'll be voting no.
All right, I'll speak too. Gary actually wrote down the word precedent on mine too, so we were thinking the same way, because, look, I want to vote yes. This is not a, like, it's one of those where you're like, my heart says yes, we should vote yes, we need this sort of a thing, but the zoning is the zoning put in place by our representatives, and we should generally enforce that unless there's some real good reason not to, or we're, really close, we're just kind of fudging the lines a little bit, which I think is where you get that 8 to 9. You're basically just kind of fudging the line a little bit to get a little bit further out. But 6 to 11, 6 to 12, whatever that number is, it does set a precedent, and then we will be having to deal with that potentially again and again and again, and may cause us problems in litigation later if we give a variance here, but turn the next 30 people down for it. So as much as I want to vote yes, I have to vote no. And I'm sorry that I have to.
Can I say one more thing to that?
Sure.
Can I talk about precedent? Are we, like, is our only scope for, like, having intergenerational homes or communal living in this capacity, like, a white-centric lens? Because communities and countries around the world, like, live like this. Can we establish that on record? Like, this is not uncommon. This is not uncommon with the global majority. I can say that for fact. So I would like to interject that when we're talking about a precedent, I think that it would encourage community in a really interesting way, specifically as it relates to the affordability of housing, long-term care. There's so many different aspects. And yes, I am kind of trying to convince y'all you get your own vote. But I'm just saying that when we're talking about policies and our interpretation of them, like these things, yes, let's set a precedent. Again, the global majority, these things are not uncommon. This happens. This happens.
I agree, but I think that the way to attack that is to take that to the board that sets the zoning standards and says, hey, you guys need to rethink this specific thing, maybe tweak this, not to try to end run around that rule every time because you disagree with it. I completely agree with you. And again, I would love to vote yes, but I mean, in general, the zoning is the zoning. And if we want to change the zoning, sign me up. I'm there with you. Everybody, let's go down. Come. When do they meet, Pete? On Monday? We'll all talk in the public portion of it. We'll all say this needs to change and get that changed. I'm there for it. But because the zoning is what it is, like my hands are tied. I kind of feel that way.
What you think about what I'm saying, Pete?
Thank you. I do want to make a comment, because first of all, when I brought up the review of the residential zone districts, that was to basically state that is the opportunity. You know, tonight is not the opportunity for this board to look at what's right and wrong with the ordinance. It's, does this request meet the criteria to grant a variance? What I'm saying is, what's coming around the corner will be the opportunity for the city to do the proper research to figure out what needs to be put in place if we are going to expand these larger adult foster care home sizes. And do we want, do we want to say if it's a medium-sized group home that it has to be located on a neighborhood collector street versus a local street? I mean, do we want to have some requirements that go with it so that we, so that it's located appropriately, and that's where I understand that, I understand what everybody's saying, and, like I said, that's something that, staff should add to the list to look at.
Okay.
But it's, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
No, you cannot. You had an opportunity to speak. Please sit down.
Go for it, Beth. I'm going to turn.
I think you have a beautiful home. And I did a lot of research, and like everybody else here on this board, there's a lot of emotion attached to these types of decisions in the elder population. And my mom lived in a group home. So I get it. And that's why when the whole visiting thing, I needed clarification about, because that, I just needed to have that clarified. However, as much as I would like to be in support of this, I'm just not so sure that what I would see as an imposition on the zoning for single-family housing area, I'm just not so sure that providing this service, as valuable as it is, and is, our country is in a crisis. I'm just not so sure that changing the zoning to go from 6 to 11 in a single-family neighborhood is the way to go about doing that. So I will be voting no. It is now time to bring the applicant's variance request to the board for a vote. Okay.
Which way do we need this motion stated? Like,
Yeah, that's what, yeah, well, okay.
I think that would the motion then be, I move to approve the variance in the application, and then it would be 1 yes and 3. Okay.
Yes.
Assuming we all voted as we literally just said.
The motion shouldn't be made in the affirmative.
Right.
Even if board members may be planning to vote in opposition to it.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Is there a motion on the application to approve the variance request from Chapter 4, Section 4.1, to increase this adult foster care group home from 6 residents to 11 residents when a medium group home 7 to 12 residents is not permitted in a single-family residential district.
Yes, I'd make that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right. Mr. Eldridge, may I have a roll call vote?
Wark,
No.
Holer,
No.
Harrington,
Yes.
Vanden Hamburg.
No. The motion to approve this variance request has been denied.
Thank you for coming.
Are there any more action items on today's agenda or any discussions?
There is no more action items tonight.
Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting?
I move to adjourn.
Meeting adjourned.
Ain't nobody about to do that.